Hello, everyone. Yeah, this is the panel you have been waiting for. We're going to talk about money. All right? But first off, I want to just give a shout out to ANF. Myself and Matua in the back, in the hat, were the first ANF fellows, and it's amazing to see how this has grown. So I want to give a shout out to Moki, all the staff. Fantastic, it's amazing. But I would like to bring up my amazing panelists. We have Vadu Rodriguez. Please come to the stage. Marie Mbulu. Adele Anyongo needs no introduction. We all know Adele. And Tomiwa, where are you? So these are our money experts. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. So we have a diverse group here on the panel, and they are extremely knowledgeable and extremely talented. So I'm going to first start with Vadu. And if you have not seen any of Vadu's photography, then you are missing out. So please find him and follow him and support him. He's not only a fantastic photographer, he also started Positively Africa. And he's going to talk to us about something. So we had a conversation yesterday where you dropped a philosophy on me. It was like a 3-step philosophy that you say has dictated how you have done your professional life as a photographer. Can you share that with the audience?
Hello, yeah. Thank you very much. Well, the philosophy was based on a conversation that I had with a friend of mine at coffee. It kind of opened up how I see myself as a creative and how I kind of put my creative stages. He said to me, basically, there's 3 stages to creative life. The first stage is investing in yourself, investing in your craft, and second stage is investing in your name, investing in your value as a creative, and the third stage is collecting money. And we were having this conversation because at the time I was, some company was reaching to me to ask me to do an exhibition, and I was like, I don't know how I would quote them, because it was a big, not even a company or organization, and should I quote them as I normally quote my rate? Should I quote them high? And they say, you know what, us creatives, sometimes we don't know in which stage are we. And when we don't know, and that's when we messed up. Because sometimes we're in the stage of investing in ourselves, investing in our craft. Or sometimes we're in the stage of investing in our platform, in our name, and we think, you know what, I'm going to collect. And that's when we messed up, because what happened is, if we try to collect too soon, sometimes we don't have much to give. So that's when I realized, oh, okay, I need to step back, thinking which stage I'm at, and how I'm going to strategize, and how I'm going to envision myself in the future. And pretty much that's the idea to it. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about investing in time for yourself as well. Can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so basically, as a creative, I think is very important for us to start learning about investment and start learning about investing in ourselves. Because sometimes, another thing that happens to us creative is that basically we expect people to invest in us, but we are not willing to invest in ourselves. I can share you a bit about my story, is that when I started Positive Africa, I was a freelance photographer in Portugal, and but I wanted to travel to Africa, and I didn't have a lot of money. But what I started to do was, okay, how can I not use money as an excuse to not do my creative work? So what I decided to do is, okay, I'm gonna work, and I think, and this is my philosophy, creative needs to start learning to work and then learning to save money or learning to make sacrifices so they can invest in their craft, invest in themselves. And once they start understanding that, understanding their value, understanding what is their value as a creative, then they can, again, go to collect. So when I decided to do that, I decided to, for 5 years, I want to go to Africa. I want to go to the continent, but I don't have money. What I will do, I'll put money aside, and for 6 months work, put money aside, and go to the continent. And collecting stories, collecting pictures, collecting assets, as I put. And 5 years, now I can say that I have a repertoire of image stories that I share with people, and pretty much I know in which stage I'm at and how I can use that to continue the cycle of investment. Let's put it like that.
Thank you, Adu. So I'm going to go over to Tomiwa. Okay, so he's a CEO, I'm a CEO. We also have a lot of CEO conversations. But you run a big cabal, and your publication, Tech Cabal, reached 1 million viewers monthly as of last month. That's a huge accomplishment. So give him a huge applause. My question really is about what models of monetization worked for you as a media company, and what are some that don't really work?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question, but
I knew he was going to do this. So.
yeah, I want to speak a little bit to what Baji spoke about, and I'm going to stand on my soapbox a little bit, not visibly stand on it, but I really like that model. Not yours, yeah, no, yeah, you said it, you had somebody else, but I really like that. I think that there's a danger for a lot of independent creators, and even for media companies, to wait for other people to give value to us. And Sally and I were talking about this earlier. When you think about the artists and you think about the creators that have had the most impact in your life, that you love the most, that you respect the most, and it's whether it's Michael Jackson's your hero, Beyonce's your hero, you like this painter, you like that photographer. The ones that have had the most impact are masters of their business. And I have to say, when I come to creative conferences, I do see a lot of waiting for other people to give us value. And Sally talked about the fact that, we're CEOs. For me, the creative industry does not work if we don't build business models that work. Your work will not have value if you don't insist that it has value, and if you don't build a real understanding of how to monetize it, how to make money from what it is that you do, so it can be sustainable. Monkey, thank you for the work that you do, Africa No Filter. But we had this conversation this morning. Brands are so unsustainable. You do 4 years of cycles, and then it's like, yeah, we decided that we're not investing in Africa anymore. We're moving our grand cycle to East Asia. Bye, thank you, good luck with whatever it is you are doing. Or our strategy has changed, and we're no longer investing in arts, we're going to agriculture, whatever it is. And so, it's really, really critical that I think we take this business point really, really seriously. And part of why I'm a CEO is I love the arts, I love culture, I love media. I've been in media my entire career, which is longer than I believe some days. And so we have two publications. We have Tech Cabal. Tech Cabal is a technology publication. We have Zikoko. Zikoko is a youth publication. We do incredibly fun content, super vibrant. I hire some of the most exciting creators that I know on the continent. I'm excited to work with them. I'm excited to see those stories get told. And my job is to figure out how to keep the lights on and to make this something sustainable. And so in that structure, there's kind of just relentless experimentation. We've done just about every monetization experiment. We haven't done a lot of subscriptions. That's the one thing that we haven't done. And our caution with subscription is the reality of the African market, which is just, to I'm gonna be blunt, like well, I'll not be as blunt as I was going to be. But, it's not North America. Disposable income is not, $10,000 a year. So are your customers able to pay? And so we haven't really done monetization by subscription very much. But we do advertising. We do a lot of work for companies. And so we're content creators. We're great at creating content that connects with audiences. We will do it for a brand. We will do it, for a foundation, whatever it is. Events are a big part of our monetization. And again, so it's Zikoko, and I don't know, how many people in this room know what Zikoko is?
Me.
Okay, thank you. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. It's really amazing platform. Instagram, TikTok, web, whatever it is that you care about. But the content's fantastic. We have a great connection with our audience. And we decided we're going to build out an event strategy that is bringing people who want to connect with this incredible creators, this incredible content, and we're going to bring them together. And again, kind of from a relentless experimentation perspective, tomorrow, I'm actually missing it because I'm going to be in the air. Tomorrow we have a barbecue festival. It's called Burning Around because Zikoko's playful like that. But we have a barbecue festival because food is a big part of our content. Earlier this year, actually, so we've done Urtitudes 2 years in a row now. It's a massive women-only festival. I think this year it's about 1,500 women. Like all the staff, everybody working on it. It's just women. It's a fantastic experience. The reviews are like insane. But again, that's because part of Zikoko's sort of like content is a real focus on women and women's stories. And so when we put together an event around that, we have the credibility to do that. And so, depending on what your work is, depending on what the content you created, sometimes the value is, I can bring these people together, and then, what brand wants to speak to these people, or what brands want to speak to these people. So events have become like kind of a big part of our monetization strategy. TechAbout just did a conference called Moonshot last month. It was our first time pulling it together, incredible success, 2,600 people. But we've been covering technology in Africa for 10 years. And so from when to invest in yourself, when to invest in your name or your brand, and when to collect, is we built 10 years of credibility, and we want to collect. And we said, if we've ever covered you, come. If we've ever provided value for you, come to Nigeria, we're doing this conference. And people came. And the audience came, the speakers came, the brands came, because you built the credibility with them. And so there is, and I really do like that model. You have to invest in your craft. You have to invest in, and that never stops. It's not like you get to a place where you stop investing in the craft. Okay, no, my bill is gone, but I've been harassing the people at Bloomberg about a financial journalism training program because we have to invest in the craft. The team must get better constantly. You have to invest in your name or your brand. And so we're relentless about that. We're we're always, I have a CFO or we have a finance person, and it's like, yeah, we shouldn't spend that money. And I'm like, listen, the brand must look great. People must care about it. We must present right. We must do the work to make sure that we stand out. Because if you build a solid brand, if people know it, they respect it, and we've been competing, in covering tech with a lot of people for a lot of years. And I think if we've outstripped some of them, it's because A, we've invested in the craft and just gotten better and better, but we've also always invested in the brand. Always made sure it's presented well. We hired a design team at a point where everybody outsources this stuff. You want to build a website, outsource it. We're going to do this in-house because it has to look a certain way, it has to feel a certain way, it has to hit people a certain way. And then that allows you to collect. And then that collecting is figure out your business models and experiment really critically. Look at the competition, look at the global benchmarks. I think it's really important that we look globally. Because sometimes we're trying to copy from the people next to us, but they haven't figured it out. And sometimes the global guys haven't figured it out either, but at least they're operating at a higher level, and you want to make sure that you're operating at the highest level possible.
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to move over to Marie now. How many people in the audience are trying to monetize their content on social media platforms? How's it going? Okay. So Marie is what we call, you're a TikTok sensation. That's what we decided for you. She has 500,000 followers on her platform, and she talks about
650K.
Okay, you're doing the math?
650,000
Oh,
followers.
I thought it was 500,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 650,000 followers. That's incredible. Congratulations. And I think what I want to know, and also I got some questions from people in the summit. They really want to know, how do you actually monetize on TikTok?
That's a great question. So when I started out, I had 100K in like 2 weeks. And there was a soup brand that's located in the States. They reached out to me and they said, we love your brand. We think you're our target audience. Please do a video for us. I've never been asked to do a branded video. I was so scared, I was nervous. And I was like, okay, what would be your rate for a follower like me? They said, well, we can pay you with the soup.
Wow.
You know, I can't pay my rent. It's soup. So after that, I went on a journey, and I had to figure out how to sell myself to brands and how to sell myself to my audience. So there's a couple things you can do as a content creator. For the diaspora, it's a little harder to get into those monetization programs, first because of the currency exchanges, and you have tax regulations, and you may just not be eligible. But if you are, on TikTok they have a creativity program, and they pay roughly $1 per view. So if your country is eligible, and you have over 100K followers, join as soon as you can. But if you're not eligible for that program, you need to sell yourself to your audience. Your audience already follows you. They already are engaged with your stuff. You can start selling subscriptions. And before I had that same thought, oh, can people afford to pay for my content? Do people like me that much? Whether they pay, I'm not Netflix, I don't have a plethora of information. But there are people, if people can subscribe to gossip sites, they can subscribe to your content. So you can do a few things. You can start a series, an exclusive series, charge what you think in your area, what people can afford, and work from there. And you can also do just a subscription where you do behind the scenes, you could do exclusive videos, you could do whatever your content is. One that's the most popular that you see that your audience likes a lot, sell that. And then when big brands start to come to you, those people do not want to hear, unfortunately, they don't want to hear, I'm shifting a narrative and emotions, they want to see numbers. So you start talking to them in numbers. I get 3 million views a month, I have a 30% engagement rate. When I did this brand deal before, I had this much in conversions. And when you start to negotiate your rates, take the number, what amount do you need to live, and then double it. And give them that number and throw it. Like, this is my rate. It may not be your rate, but throw it to them. If they really want to work with you, they'll negotiate that number. And if they accept it on the first try, you could have gotten more. So first I would focus on seeing if you're eligible for any monetization programs. Then I would offer exclusive services. And when you work with brands, your content is your property. So don't just give them your video, give them your photography and let them go with it. You can say, if you're going to use this for an ad for a year, I need to be paid every month that you use this video. Or if you want complete ownership, there's an additional rate on top of the rate it takes for me to create my content. So I would diversify your sources of income and really look for what's out there for you. But I think for the diaspora, the easiest thing to start out with is selling yourself and seeing if you can offer a subscription or offer just exclusive content that someone can buy, because you can use that to show people this is the amount of people that will buy something if I tell them to buy it. That's mine, that's my property, and this is the influence I have. And this is my audience, and this is the value that I bring to you.
Fantastic. I hope everyone was taking notes. That's honestly the clearest example I have ever heard. Thank you so much, Marie. Adele, hi.
Hello.
So Adele has a podcast called Legally Clueless, also an entire media empire, basically, now at this point. I'm also a podcaster, so in my mind, Adele's an OG podcaster here in Kenya. She's one of the first adopters of the audio format, so I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So some of your backgrounds that you started in radio, and then I guess I'm adding story. You woke up one day and you were like, I have to branch out on my own.
Yeah, like one day across 4 years. So my background is radio broadcast. I was a radio presenter and producer here in Kenya across 1FM for about, 10 years in total. 1FM, and then I was poached to Kiss FM. And at 1FM, I was doing the Drive Show, which was a peak show. Moved to Kiss, I was doing the mid-morning show, and then I moved to the breakfast show, which was a peak show. At the time that crossover was happening, I wanted to quit. And I hadn't told anyone, and obviously, in African families, first I'm already the black sheep, because I'm the creative one who just goes to work in jeans and shorts, and my grandma just doesn't understand it. And then now you want to quit, when you've already gotten a job that when we stand in front of people, we can say Kiss FM, you don't want to leave. So then I moved to breakfast because I thought I could hit my visibility goals, because I knew I didn't want to work for anyone else again. So I needed to use this huge platform to get as much money, as much visibility, and as much knowledge, so that when I jump, now I can fly by myself. And during that period, after I handed in my resignation, I had one-on-ones, and I always credit my former CEO, Patrick Kwako, because I learned so much from him. We had weekly talks, so I wanted to leave the breakfast show, and I was like, that was my first proper pitch. But just an asterisk, I've always loved creativity, but I've always loved money, even as a kid. So I was always selling things. So as a kid, I knew I couldn't draw well, but I had a friend who drew well. So I told him, make bookmarks, and then we'd laminate them with sellotape, and then we'd sell them. And they'd give them to me, not knowing what the hell I was doing. And I would only sell to adults, because adults never had change. And so I'd sell it for 5 shillings, but an adult would give me 100 bob, and I'd just be like, well, are you going to ask a kid for change? You're crazy. So I was always selling something. And so when I'm in this renegotiation, my CEO doesn't want me to leave, and I had never listened to a podcast I resigned in December, so I'm serving 3 months notice. As January, that was the first time I ever heard of podcasting. And it was a friend of mine who sent me this thing. It was like, hey, I think you should check this out. And I was like, I've handed in my resignation. I am not about to touch my savings. I'm about to be a pauper for the next 5 years, right? But I read up about it, and I was like, ooh, USB microphones, this is great. We had such archaic equipment Kiss, but we had really archaic equipment, and we were the top station in the country. Anyway, so I was like, ooh, let me research on this. And then I was like, ooh, I can afford 2. Okay, let's bring them over. And so this is happening in January while I'm renegotiating with my CEO. And I didn't know the show I was going to create or whatever, but at one point in the renegotiation, because I love money and business, I was like, let me pitch this show. Because I'd always wanted a syndicated show. I just didn't want to wake up at 5 a.m. and do a show for someone, and I didn't own that show, 1. Number 2, you were paying me a good salary, but what I was making you, I don't want the salary anymore. I want a percentage of that, And so I pitched Air. I didn't have Legally Clueless, but I was like, listen, sir, I'm going to leave your breakfast show, but I will create this other show that you can play. And I won't be an employee, so you don't have to think about my insurance, all the things the government tells you have to think about. I will just deliver these episodes to you. And then when we make money through advertising, we split it. And he was a shock. He was like, that's great. That's really great. I'll do you one better. I'll take care of all your production costs. The show will still remain yours, but you remain on my breakfast show. I'm like, oh. So it was like back and forth like that, but I eventually left and I started Legally Clueless. At the time, I was so jaded by media because it had really just broken me. It's such an unfair space for women. I didn't care about, we were a pop station. It reached a point I didn't have opinions on anything. So-and-so is in a new relationship. I'm like, great for them. So-and-so has a new song. I hope they enjoy it. I just didn't care, right? And so when I left, I was leaving radio to go into the dev world to save Africa and African women. But then I had these 2 microphones, and I'd kind of almost pitched a non-existent show. So I was like, And so because I was so stressed, I started Legally Clueless. And the name came from me just feeling like I have no idea what I'm doing, like legit. And surely it can't just be me, like maybe 2 other people, you know? And I started, the first episode was 8 minutes long. When you're in like traditional radio, a link, which is where you speak, is a minute and a half long. So 8 minutes, I was like, this is so long, my goodness, who's gonna listen to this, you know? And we kept going every week, and I always had a recorder on me. And when I traveled for conferences, I'd meet people who were interesting, and I'd just be like, hey, I have a podcast. You have like a really good story. Let's find like a tiny room and I'll record you. And I kept recording, and by episode 40-something into 50-something, a client came. This was a hobby, right? So a client came to work with me, and again, because I like money, I was like, and I hate influencing. I was like, I know you want me, but there's this thing I have that I think is much better. And I was like, it's much better because like I have real-time stats. It will stay on forever. We will craft the story around your campaign and your product. And I sell really well. I love pitching. I love the dance. Even when I don't get it, I'm sad, but I was like, that was a good jig. And so I got my first clients who were, there were 2 clients. So I got Coca-Cola Foundation, and I got the World Youth Forum in Egypt. And then because I came from radio, I understood value is in 3 parts, right? So as a creative, there's a value to you because I feel like you're the driver. Like you have to enjoy what you're doing. And as much as like other industries are so cutthroat when it comes to business, it's just like, yeah, we're all about like the bottom line. I'm like, I want to enjoy what I'm doing, okay? So I think about the value to me, and I think I love African stories. I love Africans. I love traveling. I love being in the action, right? So I love it. That's the value to me. Then I think about my community, and I think, what value am I giving them? And they come first before the advertiser, right? And so I say, well, we're a great community. We hear stories we connect with. There's a gap in terms of the type of content you have access to, and I'm filling that gap. There's the value to them. And then when I go to the advertisers, sometimes it's not even that you have 1,000 streams or downloads, right? It also goes down to, in those 1,000, there's a percentage that really, truly trust you that you can convert. And you can, even in terms of awareness in your campaign, they are aware and they trust awaringly, right? So you could have someone who has 100,000 downloads, but maybe only 1% trust. And somebody who has 1,000 downloads and 10%. Right? So you also have to really monitor, and it's great to be on a digital space, and you monitor the behavioral patterns of your audience, and you can monitor with your own products. And so I kept doing that, and I thought, okay, this is great. We're making money from the podcast, and in the pandemic, we ventured into video. I really don't like video, but my video producer was like, let's do it. And I said, okay, we'll make it seasonal, because I don't know if okay, sorry. So we'll make it seasonal. We started a video series, and then we went on tour, courtesy of African No Filter, which was great. And then we decided, which I like what you said, a business has to be sustainable. I don't want to always be pitching for my projects. I want to make money internally so that I can fund my own projects. And so we built a curriculum to teach people how to do what we've done. One, because we can become a bigger industry if we have more players. So it's in our best business interest to have more people in it, so then even the rates go up. And then we also added events, and it's centered on value to our community. The absolutely last thing I will say as creatives, when you're thinking about your business, think about your brand heart. And it's made up of your mission, your vision, your purpose, your values. Get those things down to a T, because when you're pitching, that's the first paint you're doing before you bring in the numbers. Yeah.
All right, so we are out of time. I could have this conversation for another 30 minutes. But I'd like to say thank you for sharing your wisdom. And please, let's give them all a round of applause. Yes.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes, Adele.
One more thing. You see, I told you I like money, okay? And I want us all to make money. When you're coming up with your rate, there's actually, first sit with people in very traditional business spaces. One of the people I go to talk to is a potato farmer, right? And he gives me the best insights. One. Number two, write down all your costs. When you're trying to actually cost whatever it is that you're selling, how much airtime do you use, transport, fuel, Wi-Fi? If you're working from home, rent is actually a charge, and you can actually get a tax break from it in Kenya if your business is based in your home. All of these things need to contribute to the rate that you're charging the advertiser. That's it.
Okay, so find these folks later and ask more questions. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.